Hello there, good afternoon. It's Thursday, the 22nd day of July 2022, and you are welcome to Newsbeat here on Metro TV. My name is Desmond Okrekudan. So let's take a look at our headlines coming up this afternoon. Coming up this afternoon, economists speak on expectations ahead of the mid-year budget review on Monday, July 25. Meanwhile, eyebrow has been raised on the reported $3 billion left in the central bank's foreign reserves. We'll get you more analysis on the situation. And also coming up, a clash between a team of military personnel deployed to the Uwejagbawe Municipal Assembly and some private refuse collectors at a private refuse dumping site in the Tetegu community has left several persons injured. And also coming up ahead of the 10th anniversary since the passing of former President John Evans, that males, chiefs and elders of his hometown, Untitled say the town is in shambles and not befitting of a statesman. From outside our borders, heavy gunfire at the main military base near the Malian capital of Bamako as helicopters circle overhead while a convoy carrying the country's military leader, Colonel Assimi Goita, sped away from the area towards the capital. These and many more stories coming up this afternoon. And we're streaming live on our social media platforms on Twitter and Facebook at Metro TV Ghana, and also on DSTV channel 277. Let's now set for the details. And close sources from the Bank of Ghana have revealed to Metro News that the recent reports by Parliament's Finance Committee indicating that Ghana's foreign reserves have dropped from $5 billion to about $3 billion is false. According to the BOG sources, the current foreign reserves of the country is $7.6 billion.
To the House, I really cannot understand why you use such strong words. Because when you say somebody has lied, it connotes willful intent to deceive this House. Can you prove that? You cannot. And so you cannot use such harsh words here. If you say that he had misled the House, or maybe served the House with inaccurate figures, that would be admissible. But to say that the man lied, and I know that he goes everywhere and he's talking about people lying, you know, radio. This man has lied.
Forces of darkness.
The Speaker.
The
Speaker. So truth is, if I think it's about miscommunication. If you read a statement, it says it refers to two figures. One is the net international reserves. The other is the gross international reserves. One is 9.7 billion, which has climbed down to 7.68 billion. The gross. The net climbed down from 6 billion to 3.58 billion. I would want to believe that perhaps the reference, if any, to 3.5 billion, perhaps at the committee, because I wasn't there, might have maybe related to the net international reserves. But the figure quoted in the report refers to the gross international reserves, which is really inaccurate. But Mr. Speaker, be that as it may, the matter for correction or in contention, fortunately, on Monday, that is the next succeeding working day for Parliament, the Minister himself is coming here. And I think this matter will be put beyond doubt. So, yes, it is good the member has sent us this information. Let it be there. The Speaker, if it is not true, when the Minister comes to this House, we will know the truth. And if beyond what the Minister says, perhaps we need to bring the Bank of Ghana here, the governor of the Bank of Ghana here, to authenticate whatever the minister says. Mr. Speaker, the House can accommodate that. So I don't think we should be splitting hairs over this matter at all. As I said, it relates to procedure. We have adopted a report, and according to the chairman, the content, some figures are inaccurate. How do we as a House correct it? That is, if what the chairman is telling us is the truthful position, how do we correct it? Procedurally, Mr. Speaker, I think we have a difficulty, and I'm urging that we wait until we can take notice of what he has said, but let the minister come on Monday, and when he comes, this matter will be put beyond doubt. Mr. Speaker, I thank you very much.
Very well.
Now, so on the floor of Parliament, the chairman of the Finance Committee of the House has apologized for the wrong figures put out as in the country's bank reserves. And let's cross over to Parliament for that. Okay, so we are still working the lines, and we'll get to Parliament in a bit to take that bite from the chairman of Parliament's Finance Committee. Let's have that now.
To correct. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to correct an error in a report we laid before this House on the 19th of July 2022. Mr. Speaker, on that day, I laid a report on behalf of the Finance Committee before this House on the loan facility agreement between the government of Ghana and the African Export-Import Bank for a maximum of $750 million US dollars to finance capital and growth-related expenditures in the 2022 budget statement. In that report, Mr. Speaker, we reported that the international reserves of the Bank of Ghana had declined from $9 billion US dollars to $3 billion US dollars. Mr. Speaker, this was an error. It was an unfortunate oversight. According to the Bank of Ghana, the gross international reserves of the country was $9.7 billion US dollars at the close of December 2021. This declined to $7.68 billion US dollars at the close of June 2022. In terms of net international reserves, the country closed December 2021 with $6.08 billion US dollars. This position declined to $3.58 billion US dollars at the close of June 2022. Mr. Speaker, the error is regretted, and I request the clerk at table to ensure that all the records are accordingly corrected. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will table this for the House.
And that was Honorable Kweku Kwatin, the chairman of Parliament's Finance Committee. Now let's get on to Zoom and speak to economist Courage Boti to share his expectations ahead of the mid-year budget review on July 25. And good afternoon. Thank you for joining us and welcome to Newsbeat. Now, just before we get into the conversation on the mid-year budget review, what are your take on this particular one where the Finance Committee chair is now apologizing for the wrong figures? Hello, Mr. Boti. Hello, Mr. Boti. Can you hear me? Okay, so we have a problem hearing you, so we'll work the lines and get back to you. Courage Botu is an economist, and we want to have his thoughts on the mid-year budget review that is set to take place on July 25, but also the comments from the chairman of Parliament Finance Committee, Honorable Kweku Kwarteng, that he is apologizing for the wrong figures he put out as the country's reserves. Well, we're streaming live on Facebook at Metro TV Ghana and also on Twitter. You can also follow us there. We are live on DSTV channel 277. Let's get back onto Zoom. Honorable, Mr. Courage Botu, I was asking that your thoughts on Honorable Kwarteng's apology for the wrong figures as to the country's reserves.
Well, I think it's appropriate. It got a lot of people apprehensive, and of course, it would rattle the market if it were not corrected immediately. That is, if it hasn't done so already. I knew from the onset that there is something wrong, because the last I saw of reserves in May was something around 8.4 or so billion. It couldn't have fallen to 3 billion in a space of 2 months. Besides, we expected the numbers, updated numbers from the Bank of Ghana later today ahead of the MPC on Monday. And so I spoke to a reporter from your end earlier today that we should all just wait for that data. And so it's appropriate, he's corrected it.
Great. Down to the media budget review, your expectations on Monday.
Really, I think we're already down as a nation and there is no fear for a fall. And if there is a better time to get Ghanaians to rally behind the government to tighten up a bit, I guess this is the best time, because we are at our lowest now and probably at our humblest. And so I expect that, and investors have always looked for some consolidation of sort to have some confidence in government and lend back to government. That we failed to do in the at the presentation of the 2022 budget, when on paper we appeared to want to consolidate, but in practice the assumptions underlying it was not too great, and so we see the market not trusting those figures. This is time to signal to the market, especially when IMF is in town and we are preparing to start a program that we can actually downsize and then get the market back on our side. And so I feel more of the expenditure controls like we saw in the first half of the year or the first quarter of the year, when government cut discretionary spending by some 30%, and then with along with some other expenditure control measures. We've seen that in the first quarter numbers that they have had to trim expenditure by over 3 billion to make up for the revenue shortfall. Okay. But that notwithstanding, the fiscal numbers were still a little over the target for the period. And for this period, things like the teachers' trainee allowances, things like the nurses' trainee allowances are things I believe can go easily and without debate. I think things like free SHS can be streamlined so that some particular cost items could be probably considered for parents to take up, and then the government takes up the rest. Because, I mean, a wholesale, about 10 or 11 cost items in there taken wholly by government, and government being under pressure, I think this is time to resurrect that conversation, and then we could find value for it. I think expenditure can be prioritized and go into areas like agriculture, because in this period where food inflation is a big driver of the inflation outcome we are seeing, and that probably is not due to low productivity but due to cost of inputs. Okay. Government will want to look at targeted subsidies to for inputs like fertilizers, chemicals and stuff like that, to boost agricultural productivity and also intervene in the supply chain, so that probably the mode of transport and to which sectors or which market centers could also be facilitated so that we can keep food prices down, and maybe similar other high impact sectors that can bring about growth and supply of food and other materials on the market. I believe those should be the focus in this meantime. What about the e-levy? There have been calls that there should be a reduction from the 1.5% so that a lot more Guineans can contribute to it. Do you think anything will happen with that on Monday? Well, that sounds desirable for everybody, but I do not think it's prudent because, especially, you are going into IMF program now, and the focus will be either raise revenue or cut expenditure. IMF is not coming to town, at least not for this year, in my view, because the conversations would have to linger for a while, and the program will be in place, in my view, maybe from Q1 next year, if all things go well. Now, between now and end of year, we need to still raise the revenues to make up for the losses so far, and then also meet the expenditure needs. Remember that beside e-levy, there were other revenue measures that were proposed but never really took effect. The fees and services charge, the proposed increment of 15%, only got passed in Parliament, I think, last week. And then the review of the exemptions bill is even yet to be completed, really. We've not had Parliament pass that yet. So all of these are a drag on revenue. And so I think that while the proposal to reduce the rate and get everybody on board sounds nice, if it's done immediately, its impact on revenue cannot be guaranteed. We can't guarantee that we'll get the 3.5 or so revenue that we expect from e-levy immediately. So I think that while it sounds good for the common man, it might not be too prudent for the revenue. And so they would want to force it through, at least for now.
In the past few months, we've seen agitations from organized labor when it comes to their salaries. How do you think this is going to be structured in the mid-year budget review so that they will be happy, so that the government could also work out things for themselves?
That is also one sure reason why they might not want to do anything that throws the revenue outlook as it is now in further jeopardy. Because yes, 15% increment in COLA, what that does is that it already negates probably the adjustments government did in the first quarter to try to make up for the revenue losses, right? You remember some cut in government appointees' wages and salaries. You remember some cost cutting on fuel coupons and travels and car purchases and all of that. With this 15% COLA, already you've negated that. But it took effect immediately. And so that means that we might have to tighten on other areas like goods and services, like allocation to state agencies, like CAPEX, to be able to make up for it if we must achieve the 7.4 deficit target. And I think it's important we do so because as we prepare for IMF, we must also signal to the market that we are ready to do so. And what a better way to do that, to correct that in this hard mid-year review, so that investors begin to get some assurance from government that, I mean, they are serious about consolidation going forward. And that probably might bring us or give us some look in the eyes of investors in the second half of the year, because we need that to navigate. At present domestic interest rate, it is very punitive to even borrow. And we see where the 3-year that was done yesterday, where it's ending. So it's actually not a good story now, and we need to begin to show that posture that we are more committed to it than just the rhetoric. That is where we can win market confidence.
Mr. Boti, in all of this, for the ordinary Ghanaian, they want to see the reduction in prices of food, reduction in the prices of fuel. Should we keep our hopes high that this mid-year budget review will do that for us?
I do not expect a government intervention in reducing the price of fuel because the market will be regulated, and all they can do at this point in time is to go with the flow. And again, there can't be a strong case for reduction in the tax component of fuel prices because already government is down. Some of those tax components on the fuel price are already securitized, and so there is very little you could do about them anyway. But the positive might come from the global picture as it stands now. There is an increasing risk of stagflation, that is low growth and potentially even recession in the advanced economies. Should that happen, it will impact fuel demand, right, to power the growth. Now, all of that will mean that fuel prices will continue to decline or potentially could continue to decline, as we have seen in the last maybe 1 or 2 weeks, that fuel prices are falling from the $127 per barrel peak now to just around $100,
Okay.
and it may fall lower if that demand trend continues.
All right.
Those are where we might see impact on prices at the pump and by extension inflation. But there is also a base pull on inflation which may continue to pull down inflation.
Okay.
And it appears inflation is approaching a peak and might peak by August and begin to decline thereafter.
All right, thank you very much, Kari Djibouti, for speaking to us. He's an economist, and the conversation was on the media budgets review that is supposed to happen on the floor of Parliament on Monday, July 25. Now, spare parts dealers at Abusilkan in recent times have called on the government for a reduction of the benchmark value, which they say will widen their profit margin. But how has this call been received by government, and what is the expectation ahead of the mid-year budget review? My colleague Elvis Ando is at the spare parts dealers arena for a conversation with the president of the association and is there right now. Hello, Elvis.
Review that will be read on the floor of Parliament by Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister. And I'll first start off with the gentleman here who started the whole argument and talking about a whole lot of things. So what are your expectations ahead of the budget review? What do you want to say?
Because if Papa mo bonimo, ya fasi da mo no nyame no. Tidia kunyina asida ni nyame. Na me madwonche ne se aban we eba na obeka nsem bebere ye de kira bosu kanfo. But oba ya so no ye hu se de sa na eko. Oba kra ye sebe pass adwuma na ye na afi kra ne mo ayden mo. Mfa bibi nto wote se o mampaniji ekufo. Emla na mamu no so no. Se wo de onyoma eba porta wo de ba ewo duty abitua 40 feet container wo duty abitua 20 feet container duty abitua ana car bia wo de beba bia so no ewo hu duty abede wo 20 ni a share dey eda ho nti ma boso kan fo ne hu ye den ha but na na ba ne de ye hunu so adwuma no ye hunu so kura enko ye si ahwe aboso kan hwe de ha no maye obeka se ye aprapra ha no ne tete ya no bibia nya dey enko so that say antike be sesen ka ban no ko onye bibi emfa ho na adwuma ntimi dey empeja.
Okay, so what he was saying earlier was that he is not happy with the kind of government system that is being run in the country. He also made conversations on the fact that their business is not so much lucrative as it used to be under the previous government and under the leadership of some president, that is John Ejekum Kufuor. Let me go to this man who has been talking and saying a lot of things. What is your expectation ahead of the mid-year budget review?
Mid-year budget no. The woman answer mid-year who in here bio. So that kind of for and adwuma no ntimi nye. The better things also or step down, not the obetimi no the eba. And a secondary sa parliament budget no mo ya omo so mo kan no dollar no. So mo fi say cedis no sika na hia se e be wisu a omu ntwam ni endi Ghana dollar because Liberia odi Liberia dollar. Ni enso endi Ghana dollar because enti ma se e twa cedis bo ho ka. Na mo ya budget a na mo check no dollar. Na me na o te akura se ohun dollar da no obeka ne say. Enti omu kan cedis ni ehunu de omu pa akire. Nyeso mbekwa akotena age dollar atumo abro mo gi cedis nso tum. Step now, simple.
Okay, so he is calling for reshuffle, and he's saying that Ken Ofori-Atta should step down from office. He also says that he also indicated that if the budget will be read in dollars, then there is no need to have the CD as the national currency. What is your view on that?
Ghana ha ye hu de oye ono a wazo oye tisika so ye di hia ye fe gwa na ohia na de more kom de ba ha ye hu.
An interesting submissions there with my colleague Elvis, and I'll bring you more in our subsequent bulletins. But we've got some more stories coming up after the break.
Total amount we have spent, including even administrative costs, is 53,230,805 cedis and 37 pesos.
Welcome back from the break. Now to some COVID-19 issues, and the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability has given the COVID-19 Trust Fund a 2-week ultimatum to provide a comprehensive account of the fund or else be investigated by the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice. This comes after the chairperson of the COVID-19 National Trust Fund, Sophia Kufu, disclosed that out of 62 million Ghana cedis received by the fund, only 9 million Ghana cedis is left.
There has been previous calls from the minority in Parliament and civil society organizations for the management of the COVID-19 Trust Fund to give a proper account of how monies donated into the COVID-19 fund have been spent. This has, however, not materialized. Giving account of how the 62 million cedis donated to the trust fund has been utilized, chairperson of the COVID-19 National Trust Fund, Sophia Kufu, explained that as at June 30, 2022, about 53 million cedis of the donations have been used.
As at 30th June 2022, and that was the height of things, we had actually collected, or we had received 62,329,941 cedis, 98 pesos. Never forget the pesos, they add up. And particularly at the heat of matters, we had also received a whole range of in-kind donations.
This has, however, raised more questions than answers, as the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability is requesting for a more detailed report on the COVID-19 funds. In a statement from the Alliance cited by Metro News, the group described the accounts given by the management of the fund as shoddy. They added the Public Financial Management Act provides clear-cut guidelines for financial reporting on public funds. They have therefore given the COVID-19 Trust Fund a 7-day ultimatum to provide a detailed account of the COVID-19 Trust Fund with comprehensive details on the revenues received and detailed report on the expenditures so far. They threatened to file a formal complaint. with Shraj and demand a full-scale investigations into the fund if their requests are not met.
Now, away from that, a clash between a team of military personnel deployed by the Wajagbawe Municipal Assembly and some private refuse collectors at a private refuse dumping site in the Tetegu community has left several persons injured. There's more in the following report.
According to Moro Zakari, operator of the dumping site, the military invasion came to them as a surprise since the assembly had full knowledge of their activities. He said an amount of 30,000 Ghana cedis out of 50,000 Ghana cedis has already been paid to the assembly as part of the requirement to operate at the site. He alleged the action was deliberately taken to frustrate and keep them out of business to the advantage of the MCA because he also operates a dumping site within the municipality.
We have been seriously injured. Aside the military, landguards often come here to fight us. They destroy our car tie anytime they come to the site, and it is very disturbing. We know that the duty of the military is to maintain peace in the country, but they are doing the opposite. We are pleading with the appropriate authorities to come to our aid.
Some collectors also spoke to Metro News, expressing sentiments on how they are being molested continually by the military.
The assembly is complaining that we are pouring the bola into the Densu River, which you can witness yourself, that we are not putting any bola in the Densu River. The place has been blocked with a gravel. And the other side, has contained water, stagnant water. So after pouring the waste materials, then we use gravel to recap it. So I don't know why the DC or the MC, the assembly, is doing this to the people of Titegu.
Even though officials of Wejadbawe Municipal Assembly failed to speak on camera, the assembly has announced that 3 persons are currently being prosecuted for dumping refuse closer to the Denso River. According to Doris Dente, the Wejadbawe Municipal Assembly prosecutor and the head of Environmental Health Department, the 3 persons, Kofi Kuma, Seydou Salifu, and Moro Zakari, are standing trial for engaging in an activity that has a greater tendency of polluting the Denso River. The Weja Magistrate Court granted 20,000 Ghana cedis each to the 3 accused persons to reappear before court on 25th August 2022. They have been ordered also to cease operating the dumping site.
Now let's go to the Ashanti region, where the NPP caucus in Parliament is demanding an apology from an irate youth in the Swami constituency in the Ashanti region who attacked the majority leader, Osei Mensah Bonsu, over the poor conditions of major roads in the constituency. The caucus, however, assured that the concerns of the constituents will be addressed within the shortest possible time. And let's get on to Zoom now and speak to our Ashanti regional correspondent, Abdul Bassett, for more on this. Bassett, good afternoon and welcome. What have the people of Swami been telling you since this demand from the Ashanti Regional Caucus in Parliament?
Good afternoon, Deshi, and good afternoon to our viewers. Yeah, there has been several calls aside the MP's call. The leaders of this community as well also called on the artisans to apologize to the majority leader because what they did, according to them, is an embarrassment to the majority leader. However, according to the artisans at Swami Magazine, they said they don't owe the majority leader any apology because even the demonstration that they staged has yielded results for them, because immediately after their protest, the contractor came back to site and he has started doing what is expected of him. So they believe what they did was the right thing and they don't owe him any apology. And the authorities at the Swami also accused some 2 persons of conniving with the youth to shame the MP. According to them, they have no hand in what happened at the Swami Magazine on Monday. And even that this morning to some of the artisans who, according to them, the contractor has been over the road every day to water the road. As initially the road has been very dusty and there is nothing going on the road, but as at this morning, the contractor is on the road watering the place to avoid any dusty nature of the road. And they are working, everything is going on smoothly at Swami Magazine this afternoon as I'm speaking with you.
So you mean the leaders of the artisans say they do not owe the authorities in Swami nor the MPs in Parliament any apology?
Yes, please. According to them, they even never knew demonstration would have brought the development at that area. They would have done it long ago. According to them, they are looking at the contractor to be able to fix the road as they promised. If not that, they will stage the second protest, which will be very massive than what they did on Monday. So they are looking at the contractor to speed up work so that they the road as they promised them. Otherwise, another demonstration, they will hit the streets and protest again so that they accord their concerns to the majority leaders.
Okay. Abdul Bassett, thank you for
once the demonstration.
Okay, Bassett, thank you so much. We'll come back to you in our subsequent bulletins for more on that. Abdul Bassett is our Ashanti regional correspondent, giving us some updates on the call by the Ashanti regional CAUCUS in Parliament that the youth in Swami need to apologize to the majority leader. Now to the Eastern region, where the Eastern Regional Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, CHAS, has cancelled the upcoming SUPERZONALS Sports Festival for second cycle institutions in the region due to the growing food shortage crisis in the region. At an emergency meeting with all zonal chairs in Koforidua Thursday evening, leadership of CHAS directors, zonal heads to dismiss all athletes who were being camped for the sports festival slated for next week, 24th July 2022, due to the host school's inability to feed the athletes. And let's get onto the phone line and speak to our Eastern Regional, or to the Eastern Regional basketball coach, James Okine, to tell us more on this. Hello, James. Welcome to Newsbeat. What prompted this decision by yourself and the whole body, CHAS?
Okay. Good afternoon to you and your viewers. And first of all, I'm not in the position to know what exactly happened, to call this off. But from what we are hearing, is that their whole schools don't have enough funds to camp these students for the upcoming regional games. And that has been a problem, and that's the main reason why I think they are calling it off. But trust me, Eastern region, Koforidua is ready to host the other zones. We have 8 zones in the region, and Koforidua is ready to host the other 7 to make this thing happen. Also, it's not 100%, but they were soliciting funds from other private entities and other corporate places to make this happen. But other schools are complaining they can't host the students to make this happen. So that's why I think they are calling it off.
Okay, James, how long have the students been camped for the SUPERZONALS? How long have that been?
It's been a week now.
A week now. And how have you been feeding them?
Come again?
How have they been fed?
That is what I said earlier. Eastern Koforidua is ready to host the other, how do we call it, zones. That should tell you that they are at least halfway ready to make it happen.
Okay.
And they are able to feed these kids, on a normal basis. And they were camped as well. But the issue is not coming from Koforidua. It is coming from the other zones that are not being able to, put things together to, get funds.
Okay.
Camp the kids.
Okay, so for Koforidua, it's going to happen, and for the other zonals, it will be cancelled. Koforidua is the one hosting the other zonal teams in the region. Okay.
But for other regions, I don't know about other regions, but I heard some regions are already through with it. Okay. And it's going to affect Eastern region as well.
Okay. If the situation persists, would you be forced to cancel it?
Please come again.
If the situation about the food shortage persists, will the games be cancelled?
Sure, definitely. Yeah, because you can't camp kids without feeding them. Do you understand?
Okay.
And we all know we are not in normal times. Okay. Yeah, so that is it.
Okay. Thank you very much, James, for speaking to us here. And you're still watching Newsbeat here on Metro Television. We're taking a break. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back from the break. It's now time for business news, and Winston Taki is here with the stories. Hello, Winston, take us away.
All right, this morning it's time to bring your business right after this. And now to a first business story. Private legal practitioner Martin Pedu says the government's move to contract Data Bank for raising some $160 million for the bonds market is a clear case of conflict of interest. He was speaking at a forum by Arise Ghana in Accra.
The private legal practitioner raised concerns on government's effort to fight corruption. He was worried government officials are involved in conflict of interest situations and yet nothing is being done to stop the practice. He, for instance, mentioned the use of data bank in raising funding from the bond market.
Finance Minister went to Parliament, and when he was asked, he has publicly admitted that he's made about 160 million Ghana. I mean, do you understand? 160 million from the bonds we have been raising. That's from data bank. Data bank is made 160 million Ghana. Take it to all Ghana cities. So it'll be running into hundreds of billions. Is that also? So this oligarchy, where a few people are in charge, is not what the Constitution promised us.
He said this is a clear case of conflict of interest and asked the president not to look on while these corrupt acts go unchecked.
Whether we like it or not, government is engaging the IMF. But the question is that, does the IMF program come down to supervise to make sure that there will be no corruption? No. So, if we can't stop government from going to the IMF, at least we should be interested in the laws that will stop the thievery, that will stop the looting. And one of them is the asset declaration law. It's provided in the Constitution that's Article 286, Clause 4, that if you find any public officer who has more than his income can provide. Okay, so when you see him with mansions, houses, East Legon, airport, cantonments, all over, and yet a minister's salary doesn't go beyond 30,000 a month.
Vice President of the Islamic University, Dr. Gamel Adam, also spoke on dependence on donors. He reiterated the need to win the government of donor support in order to speed up development.
What is therefore required, finally, Mr. Chairman, as I said earlier on, is a robust and militant program of scientific and technological transformation involving the total mobilization of national resources and especially national brain and engineering power. Under the circumstances of the present crisis, certainly the IMF will only paper over the cracks.
The lecture was to engage the public on the true state of the economy and also highlight measures to deal with the current challenges.
Now, the growth of businesses can in most developed countries be attributed to the policies and laws that create a conducive environment for them to thrive and succeed. For this reason, the collaboration between Parliament and industry plays a critical role in nations' industrialization agenda.
Economic development involves increasing agricultural productivity, building technological capabilities among domestic firms, export diversification, industrialization, and the implementation of policies to boost business confidence. It's on this basis that the Association of Ghana Industries deliberation with the Parliament of Ghana was aimed at promoting industrial development through business-friendly policies for indigenous companies. Speaking at the event, the Majority Leader of Parliament, Oseiche Mensah-Bonsu, expressed worry about the challenges confronting the implementation of property taxes.
Property taxes. It was part of the taxes that were mentioned by the current budget. And of course, it will so much depend on the work that the assemblies do, the street systems and so on, getting everything right in order for us to be able to locate the streets and address systems, in order for us to be able to, get to where these properties are, to be able to do the appropriate assessments. It's one of the reasons why, for instance, in Ghana, we are losing about 28% or so of all electricity generated.
Up next is update from the Forex and commodities market. That's all for business here on Newsbeat. Sports is next with Phil Joncote. Phil?
Mr. Thank you very much. Up next, we'll bring you the latest in sports on Newsbeat. My name is Phil Joncote, and it's time for your midday sports. Ghana's Evelyn Bedu was adjudged the best player at the 2022 CAF Award, which was held in the Moroccan capital, Rabat, last night. She also picked the award as the Club Interplayer of the Year. Let's hear what she had to say after picking the award.
Gentlemen, I'm humbled to win this award and also to be the first recipient of the Women's Interclub Player of the Year award. To be selected as the best by my fellow players, coaches, journalists, technical experts means a lot to me. It is sad that I couldn't make it to the awards gala, as I'm currently in training camp with my national team, preparing for the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup, Costa Rica. A big thanks to my teammates, coaches, and my fans for their support towards this achievement. I wish you all a great night.
Evelyn Bedu, over the meanwhile, the ladies handled and coach of Azakes Lady has praised her for picking the award.
I was overwhelmed because when I heard the news or I saw it, in fact, I was so happy, said that I couldn't hold myself. And immediately after that, I called her in camp and she was full of smiles and shouting, "Coach, thank you for everything." Oh, in fact, actually, hard work pays anyway. I punch at her direct. She may show the body language, may show that, but I will persist that this is exactly what I want you to do. There was even a match. I was on her, she was crying, and I said, you end the 90 minutes. You are not coming out. You are going to play. After the match, I'll go to their camp. I'll talk to her, just for her to feel good, to feel that, no, I don't hate her, but I wanted to do the right thing. We come to the field, at training and matches still, and to such a point that I realize now she's now growing. She's maturing. She's getting a lot of courage. And there, she even had an offer earlier. I said, you are not going anywhere because I am not satisfied with your performance yet. You have not matured yet. Give me another year. This is where it has ended. The year she gave me, I was for her. Not only she alone, but the rest of the team there. The fact that what she was ready to learn and what I saw in her, I wanted to bring it out of her. She accepted the challenge. So we went through it.
Yusuf Bazgiki is the head coach of Azakes, praising Evelyn Bedu for picking the award held yesterday. I'm talking about the CAF Award held in Rabat, Morocco. Let's go to Minnesota in the United States of America, where Ghana's Isaac Dogbe will take on Mexican-American Jos Gonzalez in the final later tomorrow. Let's hear the boxers now.
It just goes to show that it's boxing, but it is having the ability to restructure yourself and coming back, and by saying that, it's about you being true to yourself and also putting in the work and listening to your corner, and I mean that's all you can do.
It would mean a lot, like you said, I came up short twice. I face two top fighters in the world right now. I mean, you look at where they are right now. They're at the top of their game. So, it is what it is. It's part of boxing. But I'm still here. I'm still focused. I'm still hungry. And I'm willing to fight the best and get that third title. A little bit of everything. Motivation, a little bit of more pressure. Because the opportunity is there. The opportunity is there for my third time. But I got to get the job done. I got to get past Isaac Dogbe first and then go from there.
Yeah. I love it. I love the challenge. I'm always willing to go in there and dust it off with whoever's in front of me. And I mean, listen, I'm super thankful to God and also to Top Rank because it's been a hell of a ride, you know, and I'm really
Ghana's Isaac Desraston Dogbe preparing for the Mexican-American by name Gonzalez tomorrow in Minnesota. That's your sports. My name is Phil John Quote. Up next, Showbiz.
It's now time for entertainment news, and a new 5-member team has been sworn in to be the board members of the Ghana Music Rights Organization, GAMRO, after a court injunction to dissolve the previous board. The inauguration of this new team was done after a court ruling on 19th July 2022, which said the management of GAMRO had disregarded an interlocutory injunction for the elections, which were held earlier this year in March. And some members who were unhappy about the mandate of the board and the election process of GAMRO took up the issue to court, and there has been a back and forth from the courtroom. GAMRO was hence fined 2,000 Ghana cedis for defying the court's orders, but responding to the issue, management said they got to know about the injunction after the elections had already been held, and a new team including Rex Omar and Diana Hobson are part to steer the affairs of GAMRO. Now let's talk about GYAKIE, because the Ghanaian superstar has officially released her much anticipated EP project titled My Diary. The Something hitmaker released a 6-track EP earlier today, and the EP features her already released song Something, and there's also Waka Waka Flames, which features Davido and has some great reviews so far. And after the release of her 2 singles, Something and most recently For My Baby, GYAKIE has been on the road promoting each song worldwide. And that's all for entertainment. And here are some of the stories making the headwaves on the international scene. Up next.
There has been heavy gunfire at the main military base near the Malian capital, Bamako. Helicopters have been circling overhead, and there are reports that a convoy carrying the country's military leader, Colonel Assimi Goita, sped away from the area towards the capital. Witnesses said the gunfire lasted about an hour. It is not clear who was behind the violence, and the military-led government has so far not commented on the incidents. The rising price of basic foods is worsening in South Africa's food security crisis, which could increase social instability and spark a repeat of the devastating July unrest. Food Forward South Africa, an organization addressing hunger in poor communities, says per month 30 million people in the country are experiencing food insecurity. South African consumer inflation surged to a 13-year high last month, mainly driven by rising transport and food prices. Turkey says a deal has been reached with Russia to allow Ukraine to resume exports of grain through the Black Sea. It is to be signed on Friday in Istanbul by Ukraine, Russia, Turkey, and UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Ukraine's foreign...
And that's it for international news, and that's how we wrap up the whole bulletin this afternoon. Many thanks for watching the news. My name is Desmond Okrekwidans. We are back at 4 p.m. with the News Flash and 7 p.m. with the News